the former Director of Operations of NORAD, retired Major General Scott Clancy. Good morning. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
So we're 4 days into this conflict. What do you make of the actions of both Iran and the American-Israeli response?
Well, let's start with the strikes and where we are in the campaign. It's my estimation that the initial objectives that were given to the military side of the campaign were, number one, establish air superiority over top of Iran, which will enable all follow-on types of operations. Second would be to attrit Iran's naval capability to influence and retaliate into the Straits of Hormuz and the Gulf. And then third, to diminish their ballistic missiles so that they can't retaliate into Israel and all of the Gulf states surrounding it. I think we're seeing some initial success here because the advent of drones and lower capable or less survivable aircraft over Iran is going to signal that there's more aircraft they're going to flood over, and they're going to start looking out for those targets that they can't get so far. And these are these ballistic missiles that are on mobile launchers spread out around the country that are retaliating around the Gulf. And that's what you were seeing in Israel, this morning and last night, as well as other places, drones and mobile ballistic missiles that are being launched to retaliate indiscriminately across the region.
How long can Iran keep this up when you look at the military superiority of America and of Israel?
So the short answer is, as long as they want. I think the Western ideas with respect to what military pressure and even economic sanction and everything else can coerce a nation to do need to be tempered a little bit. And I just go back to the initial stages of the war in Ukraine and think, oh, we're going to bring Russia to its knees economically within Ukraine's going to, and nothing could be further from the truth. Same as here with Iran. You're not talking about an autocratic leader that led through cult of personality. You're talking about revolutionary institutions that were put in place as of 1979 with fervent belief that the Shia Islamic way of doing business here from a fundamental point of view is the way to propagate their beliefs across the region. That's not going away anytime soon. So the answer is, as long as those institutions maintain control and power over the opposition forces inside of Iran, there is no armed opposition force really inside of Iran. They can maintain this as long as they want.
Trump and Pete Hegseth were very clear about their objectives yesterday, though they did stop short of saying that they were looking for regime change. What do you make of that? Can you separate the two, and can you have real success without putting troops on the ground?
So they've defined success in terms of those four objectives.
Yeah.
The nuclear program, the ballistic missile program,
the Navy, yeah.
The Navy, which they've done a lot of. Now, it's the fourth objective that they're going to have the most amount of problems with, and that is the ability to propagate terror beyond their borders. That has to do with money and weaponry, and it's like saying, hey, we're going to knock off organized crime. But that's a very, very difficult thing to be able to do. But they've defined those things in those limited terms, while giving the opportunity to the Iranian people to self-determine themselves. This is the fine line that they're walking. I think if you asked Israel the exact same question, who faces an existential threat from Iran all the time, they would say that they're after regime change, quite certainly. And their targeting, especially from the outset, is very focused on that. But neither one of those two nations, Israel or the United States, are willing to go into Iran to be able to do that. I think this has to be let to the Iranian people is kind of how the rest of this goes. So can they achieve success? Significantly. And it's beneficial to the world if Iran is significantly limited on its ability to propagate conflict outside of its borders. But that's not going to be in 14 days. It's going to have to be a concerted and revisited effort, because this regime and its institutions are hell-bent on those things.
Right. And I'm out of time, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to conclude then, you're saying, and that means make room for diplomacy, get back to the negotiating table.
Ultimately, it's going to have to, because I don't think you're going to see a regime change. You're going to see an end to the conflict, stopping of bombing, but nothing other than that.
Always enjoy our conversations. Retired Major General Scott Clancy, we'll speak with you again.
Thank you very much.